Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them. On the 20th of November 2003, James Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon was elected councillor for the Failsworth East Ward of Oldham. Deeply ambitious, he ruthlessly rose to power, and by 2011 he was already leader of the council. In 2015, exploiting a Labour Party loophole, he became MP for Oldham West and Royton. If only the people of the town knew then what they now know. Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.
Very, very good evening. Wednesday, the 8th of July 2026. My name is Raja Miah. This is one of those emergency transmissions we have every now and then. First and foremost, thank you to those of you who've asked after my health. It's not in the best of place at the moment. I actually went to a doctor's today, so I have some tablets I have to go on for the short term, so I'll see how that plays out. The problem with the live transmissions is you don't see it, but there's lights all around me to make this work, and the lights are something I struggle with at this moment in time. Of course, as always, a very, very warm welcome to all of my friends at Oldham Council, Labour Party politicians, Reforms politicians, and of course the Pakistani sectarians and the Liberal Democrats, as well as the fake independents. I know all of you very much enjoy my analysis of the mischief that many of you get up to. Now, I have stayed away from this for a number of reasons, really. One was, it is no secret that a number of the Reform councillors in Oldham are friends of mine, and I supported them to become councillors, and it would be wrong of me to intervene or interfere in the day-to-day running of whatever they want to say or whatever they want to do. And the only reason I am now doing this is because there's an immediate threat to the rape gang inquiry because of, and I don't know which, because I don't know all of them, because of the cowardice of some of the Reform councillors, perhaps, because of the ignorance, as in they don't know what they don't know, or maybe the outright arrogance that they believe that they can run rings round an established machinery of Arooj Shah, Jim McMahon, the Labour Party, and council officers that are actually loyal to, well, the establishment, if I'm to borrow Nigel Farage's term from yesterday. So that is why I try not to get involved. And I'm now having to get involved because the safety of children and the integrity of the national inquiry and its ability to uncover the truth now finds itself at risk. I've known about this for some time, but it's only now. And if you've heard that, and if that is true, that Reform are putting Mark Kenyon in charge of the council and Cameron Guffaw as deputy, if that is true, then I may as well just turn off my machine now and head off and try my best in the places where people perhaps take heed of what I have to share. And I'm hoping, if anything, I'm hoping that what I share does go to influence people who we elected and we put our faith in. I am no fan of Shelley Kipling. Shelley Kipling, the chief executive of Oldham Council, was essentially appointed by a Quango, Arooj Shah. She's not qualified to do the job, and she was promoted, in my view, she was promoted so as to try and protect Arooj Shah and the establishment, the Labour Party establishment in the town. I have a separate issue with Shelley Kipling, and that she was, during the time of the rape gangs, at its height, when the Jim McMahon emails were released, where they were dragging children into shisha bars. That's true, isn't it, Shelley Kipling? You were part of the communications team. And that communications team, exposed, proven, worked to keep this information hidden. In fact, they celebrated keeping it hidden. That's true, isn't it, Shelley Kipling? The communications team that you were a member of, working underneath Jim McMahon whilst he was leader of Oldham Council, suppressed information that children were being dragged off the streets into shisha bars from where they were drugged, gang raped and trafficked. Proven. Those actions are proven. So I'm not a fan of a woman or a man, an individual, who has risen through the ranks in such a way where in the end her appointment was by some Labour Party Quango. They didn't even advertise the job properly. They didn't take interviews properly. It was uncontested, and this is a chief executive role. I'm also not a fan of the borough solicitor Alexander Bogatov, and I have evidence that I will share with you today as to why. Alexander Bogatov, as far as I'm concerned, should be in prison. I do not say that lightly, because Alexander Bogatov was directly involved in the cover-up of the Pakistani rape gangs, whereby he hired heavyweight solicitors to take out an injunction against me, threatened me with my home if I was to fight back and continue campaigning. This is long before most of you had ever come across me. Oldham Council, at the instruction of Alexander Bogatov, came after me to silence me because I had been speaking out against the cover-up of the gang rape of children. It should surprise no one that Bogatov also was promoted into his position without due process, or what I would consider to be due process. This is the borough solicitor, appointed without an advert, appointed without an interview, from what I can tell. A backdoor appointment. And to my friends in Reform, if any of you believe that these people are on your side or in any way reasonable, will more fool you. They are Labour Party appointments, and they both have questions, serious questions to answer regarding their own roles in the cover-up of the rape gangs. The council's own officers are steering Arooj Shah back into power on the eve of the national inquiry coming to Oldham. You might think that's a coincidence. I do not. The paperwork, and I've got the paperwork, threatens councillors with a law that does not say what they claim it does. But these councillors are, let me be kind, so inexperienced, they've not gone and actually seen whether the threats have any legitimacy. And the abstentions, one of you have already mentioned it, being whispered as reform's clever way out, keeping the hands clean. Hands the borough to either Arooj Shah or Cameron Guffor's Pakistani sectarian bloc vote instead. They don't like me using the term Pakistani sectarian, so I'll say it again. Pakistani sectarian. Of course, reform, if they knew what they were doing in Oldham, have a way through this. But unfortunately so far, you're not there, are you, lads? You're not there because you're squabbling with each other. You're squabbling with each other over positions you have yet to occupy and candidacies, I hear, for the MP positions for Oldham West and Oldham East. How about you do a job here first? On July the 15th, next Wednesday, Oldham's councillors will be told their votes are no longer their own. Here is what is actually happening, stripped of the legal dressing. I'll share that with you now. The national inquiry into the rape of this borough's children is weeks away from arriving in Oldham. And one of the institutions it will examine is Oldham Council itself. The council Labour ran throughout the years under the investigation. The voters, you and I, spent 8 years taking Labour's majority away. And in May we finished the job so decisively that Arooj Shah resigned the leadership herself, telling the borough it was now for others to put forward proposals reflecting the mandate the voters had given them. 8 weeks later, the council's own officers have produced a letter and a report designed to put her straight back in time to control how Oldham Council answers for what Oldham Council did. What Bogotoff, Kipling and the others are trying to do, this scheme of theirs, reverses 2 verdicts at once. The electorate's and Shah's own. She accepted the result, remember, the Civic Centre did not. The Officers' Party did not. The Officers' Party led by a woman who was in the very communications team that covered up and protected the Pakistani rape gangs. So the Officers' Party, they couldn't win your vote, so they sent the lawyer, Bogotoff. And the people they need compliance from, the votes they need compliance from, they stood, representatives of their party stood on their doorsteps, posted online. 4 words. And I'm here to remind them of those 4 words. Vote reform, get reform. The officers of the council, who are now threatening elected councillors, are doing so under the hope that you've not read the paperwork. My friends, even in the condition I'm in, I have read the paperwork. I will walk you through it. Sorry, I'm just... Yes. The problem is, if I wear the dark glasses, I can't see the comments on the screens and stuff. My friend Stephen's joined me from corrupt Holland. On the 2nd of July, every councillor in Oldham received a letter from Alexander Bogatov, Director of Legal Services. And the monitoring officer. Let's start with the subject line. Council acting unlawfully. You can see it. Council acting unlawfully. Not a question. It's not an allegation. You can see it there. It's a verdict. Typed above the salutation before a single argument has been made. Read what the letter claims and the law says. It states that the Local Government Act 2000 places a duty on all councillors to elect a leader. I have read that act, the Local Government Act 2000, and as I see it, as I read it, the duty sits on the council as a corporate body to operate executive arrangements. I can find no section that places a personal duty on an individual councillor to vote for a leader, let alone a particular one, and we'll get to that in a bit. If I am wrong, the remedy is simple. And why not a single reform councillor until I helped one of my friends and I said I will never do it again, draft something this morning to send to the borough solicitor? Why is a single reform councillor not checked to see if it is the duty? It's not. So they should be asking Bogatov to cite the provision. Because if such a duty existed, every abstention in every hung council in Oldham would be a breach of statute. Nobody's ever suggested this. The claim is a load-bearing wall. Let's describe it as that. Everything else in the letter, the warnings about reasonableness, the deadline, rests on the idea that each councillor is legally obliged to produce a particular voting outcome. Take this away, and what you have here is a letter from a borough solicitor on official notepaper. You see the logo there? Describing his own future paperwork. Watch what happens to the hidden legal advice inside a single page. First, and you see it there, external counsel. Fifth paragraph down, the external legal advice. Yeah. External counsel advises that the continued absence of a leader is inconsistent with the statutory framework. Careful, hedged lawyers' language. 4 paragraphs later, the same advisers apparently concluded that councillors' continued failure is unlawful. It's unlawful. If the council acts unlawfully, the monitoring officer must intervene. Same letter, the same advice, and somewhere in between, the conclusion has hardened from inconsistency to illegality. No, my friends, Bogotov has not shown us the advice, so we cannot know which version council actually wrote. What is the solicitors? What is the legal advice? But you are behaving unlawfully. Of course, there's a point of not showing it. There's a point of not showing it. The deadline is manufactured as well. You can see it by the 15th of July 2026. The council will have had 2 further months to appoint a leader and form an administration. At that point, it will become increasingly difficult to demonstrate that councillors have taken all reasonable steps available to resolve this position. How dare you, councillors? Councillors will be failing to act reasonably, and the council will be operating unlawfully. Continuing without a leader and administration will face the council at significant risk of operating outside the requirement of its governance framework. If this position remains unresolved, it will be necessary for the monitoring officer to prepare a Section 5 report, as it is not lawful to remain without a leader and administration. Every councillor should therefore recognise that the appointment of a leader is no longer simply a political matter. It is a matter of legal compliance, statutory governance, and the council's ability to continue operating lawfully. He sent that letter. I've not got the date here for some reason, but he sent that letter a number of days ago, a week ago at least. I've seen it. Second of July, he sent that letter. If I was working on this, I would have issued, if I was a councillor or in any way involved, for those of you who say I'm involved, I'm not involved because I've kept myself out of it. If I was involved, I would have issued an instant rebuttal to Alexander Bogotov. And then I would have challenged him to produce the evidence. I also know the legislation that he makes reference to, and how the legislation he makes reference to makes no reference to what he claims. The Local Government Act 2000. It doesn't. It doesn't say anywhere that councillors voting is an illegal act. Because that's what he's saying. If you vote in a way we don't like you voting, it is unlawful and illegal. "13 days later comes a report written by Heather Moore. She's the director, assistant director of governance. I don't think you've seen this. This is what he says. This is devastating, damning. Governance arrangements, election of leader and a cabinet of last resort. You can see the logo there. This is an official document written by Heather Moore, Assistant Director of Governance, 15th of July 2026. No, I don't like that colour. Give me a second. And the reason for the decision, this report, is to ensure the council is acting lawfully by electing a leader and forming an administration. And the recommendations are this: that the council elects Councillor Arooj Shah as the leader of the council. So the council officers are now saying for you to, here, look, for you to ensure that the council is acting lawfully, it now needs to elect Councillor Arooj Shah as the leader of the council. And that the council adopts a constitutional convention whereby the leader is expected to establish a politically balanced cabinet. Oh, and when we talk about lawful, for this to happen, the council's own constitution will have to be altered. So right, isn't it, Heather Moore? You want us, you want the councillors we elected to be blackmailed, and some of them are fucking cowards, to be blackmailed into voting in Arooj Shah, gangster affiliated, hangs off the arm of Dale Cregan's getaway driver, a convicted heroin dealer. You want the people we elected to fight Labour and remove Labour to put in power a Labour Party politician, specifically this Labour Party politician, as leader of the council. The Local Government Association has provided support to the council, allocating member peers to political groups. Officers have also been in dialogue with the Ministry for Housing, Communities and Legal Government to establish any required actions. external legal advice has been sought, which concludes that the continued absence of a leader is inconsistent with the statutory framework established by the Local Government Act 2000. Do you say? Inconsistent with the statutory framework. In legal language, my friends, inconsistent with the statutory framework does not mean something is illegal. Something being illegal does not mean that the councillors who refuse to vote in a Labour Party leader are somehow involved in criminal actions. Councillors are not complying with the Act, which places a duty on councillors to elect a leader. There is no duty to the councillors to elect a leader. Then she makes reference to a letter from the monitoring officer, which is what I've just shown you. And apparent doubles down. If you forget, if you refuse to do it, you'll be acting unlawfully. And the Section 5 local government report would be issued. And apparently it would be a declaration that the council is no longer operating within the law. And then she comes up with a model. She wants a cabinet under Arooj Shah with Labour, Reform. Pen's gone. And all decisions, principal decisions, up to £2,000 and £50,000 will be required by a cross-party cabinet. What do you think? Just answer me this, people who live in my town or towns like mine. What do you think would happen on the streets when we go knocking on doors for people's votes if you reform? If the leader of Reform is licking the boots of Arooj Shah. I'm sorry, Lewis. Gary, all of my friends in Reform. Why the fuck have you not told them to go and get fucked? Why have you not issued a statement telling Heathermore to shove it? That record numbers of people did not go out and vote Reform so you could prop up Arooj Shah. Tell me. Tell me why you've not responded to Bogotoff and told him to demonstrate the legality of what he says. Why you've not said to Heathermore to back up. Where's the evidence? Where's your dialogue with the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government? Where's your external legal advice? Where is it? If you've not got the courage to fight them now, you might as well just resign and be done with it, because this is the easy bit. Vote reform, get reform. You said that. This is the easy bit. Your mandate does not come from the monitoring officer. Your mandate comes from the thousands, the tens of thousands of people. So you can see 13 days later comes this report written by Heather Moore, assistant. Sorry, I'm showing you this. I'm doing it here when you can't see it. Assistant Director of Governance, no doubt. And it's dated for the full council meeting on the 15th of July. You can see the date is for next week. Recommendation 1. It does something I have never in all my years seen an officer's report do. Never seen this. It names the person councillors must elect. That the council elects Councillor Shah as the leader of the council on the basis that the Labour group has the largest number of seats. And here is what makes her recommendation extraordinary rather than merely improper. The chamber has already voted on Arooj Shah. It is in the council's own minutes from the 1st of July. Councillor Shah moved it. Councillor Elaine Taylor seconded it. That Councillor Shah be appointed leader of the council and the Labour group form a minority administration. On being put to the vote, the amendment was lost. Her own motion in her own name defeated in open session 2 weeks ago. The chamber has not failed to decide. It voted down Lewis Quigg, it voted down Ghaffar Kenyon, Akhtar, they all lost. The chamber has not failed to decide. The chamber has decided repeatedly. And one of the things it decided was that no more will a Pakistani gangster affiliated, rape gang protecting Arooj Shah lead this council, lead this town again. No more. The people on the streets decided it, and the councillors in the chamber from across political parties decided it. And the officers answered, the officers from the chief executive that is bosom mates with Arooj Shah, is to put forward a report ordering the question to be asked again with a legal threat stapled to it. This isn't the resolution of a deadlock. This is the overturning of a result. You will vote again until you vote the way we tell you to vote. That basis is not law. Nothing in statute says the leader of the largest group becomes the leader of the council. What they are proposing is precisely what the voters of Oldham have spent successive elections, I lose count, 8 years dismantling. An officer's report now proposes to restore by recommendation what Labour could not hold at the ballot box, with the letter's threat of unlawfulness standing behind it like a council bailiff. if you look at this, you'll also see at the back of the report there's a consultation section, that's empty. Financial implications, that's empty. Procurement, empty. And the section headed legal implications, in a report whose entire argument is what they interpret to be the law, contains nothing in that section either. I'm not joking. Here, look. Consultation empty, financial implications empty, legal implications empty, procurement, equality impact including implications for children and young people, of course not. Key decision, no. Key decisions reference, no. Background papers, not appendices, none. Legal implications, nothing. Mate, I don't know who you are. You put that up again. If you're here, shut up and listen. Debate in the report is a politically balanced cabinet of last resort. 3 Labour seats, 3 Reform, 2 Oldham Group, 1 Liberal Democrat, 1 Conservative, no casting vote for the leader. There you go. Sorry, I've got my nephew phoning and he knows I'm doing this, so he can... Paragraph 3.3, there you go. Tells you what the guarantee is worth in the report's own words. The convention is not a legal requirement. Do you see the last sentence? This would be a constitutional convention, as this is not a legal requirement. The moment Shah is elected, every statutory power of the leader belongs to her and nobody else. That's the statutory power. She can appoint and sack whoever she likes, hand out portfolios however she pleases, and take the Greater Manchester Combined Authority seat for herself. The balanced cabinet lasts as long as she wants it to. And the report's remedy, if she tears it up, is a vote of no confidence. It asked the same deadlocked chamber that failed 3 times to elect a leader to suddenly find the majority to remove one. Now, do not take my word on the enforceability of this document that was shared by Shelley Kipling and her friends. This governance arrangements meeting. Do not take my word for it. You can see it. Report to council. Did it say report to council on the top of it? The published agenda for 15th of July. That's published agenda 15th of July on the council's webpage. I've looked at it. 88 pages or something of it. Carries its own report on the leadership at item 11. It's a completely different document. Let me see if I can find it for you. So what I've shared with you is what every councillor has seen. And this is what they have published online. Always does that. It always does that. Don't know why it does that. Let me try a different way. Probably isn't safe, is it? The Oldham Council webpage. Loading the big document, just give me a second. Agenda reports pack PDF. Yep. There you go. This is what they put up. Leader of the council. The election of the leader of the council is a council function in accordance with provision of Local Government Act. Recommendations. The council receives nomination for the office of the leader of the council. The council elects the council leader for terms of office starting the 21st of May. Do you see? It's a completely different document. Paragraph 2.2, you can see it, and 2.3 state twice in the council's own official papers that the leader determines the cabinet and the delegation of every executive function, and that the council does not have any decision-making role in this regard. That is their own constitutional paperwork published under the same officer's contact details, certifying that the balanced cabinet being dangled at the opposition is not the council's to guarantee. You can see the paper they published and the paper they sent. Which brings us to the strangest discovery of the lot. And you can verify this one yourself. Yeah, you can see it. It's not even an appendix. It's not even in the appendices. It exists. I've shown it you. It is dated for this meeting. It carries the chief executive as the officer contact, and councillors have it. The public does not. 2 items on the published agenda sit marked report to follow. This afternoon, yes, there's more. This afternoon, at 1:41, with suggestions of this paperwork already circulating online, Shelley Kipling sent this. You can see 141. Dear group leaders and deputies, earlier this week, I'll read it first. We met to try and further ongoing discussions about the formation of an administration and the election of a leader. Apparently, we tried to further ongoing discussions. Is the threat of illegality and somehow, councillors acting unlawfully, is that the language of ongoing discussions? I'm just going to stop there. I want you to confirm with me if that is the language of furthering ongoing discussions. No. Of course it isn't. This is vital in order to stop the council from being in a position of acting unlawfully and putting at risk both the council's financial position and the successful operation of vital council services. At that meeting, I discussed with you an option that aimed to provide an option of last resort should these negotiations remain unsuccessful. This is backtracking. I am disappointed that this has been shared online with a narrative that this is somehow an attempt by officers to subvert the democratic process. She's disappointed that we've seen the evidence for ourselves and have been able to decide what she is up to. Apparently, this option is a fail-safe. A fail-safe. A way that council officers and council services can remain protected while you are unable to come to an agreement on a politically formed administration. It simply seeks to formalise what we have already put in place as an interim measure. A cross-party cabinet making decisions on behalf of Oldham. In the absence of being able to support each other to form an administration of your choosing, this is the only other option that will protect council services from the consequences of the organisation acting unlawfully. There you have it again, unlawfully. Have you noticed the word she puts in front of it? The organisation acting unlawfully. not councillors acting unlawfully. This option offers a politically balanced blah blah, you've heard all that. At any time, this arrangement could be modified through a vote of no confidence should a politically devised administration become a possibility. Your first priority remains to deliver an administration through political negotiation. See? Backtracking. However, should that continue to be difficult, I am asking that you provide this council and the people who rely on its services with the legal protection it needs to continue to operate. Shelley Kipling. She wrote to all 12 group leaders and deputies, copying in Heather Moore. And of course, backdoor Bogotoff. This is the sound of an institution discovering its documents are out in the wild, and it gives away more than it defends with its response. Let's start with what it confirms. The chief executive confirmed she met group leaders privately earlier this week and personally put this scheme to them. She confirms the cross-party cabinet of 10, the delegation of the leaders' powers, the whole architecture. Not one document in circulation is disputed. Not one fact is called false. Her complaint is that there is a narrative. A narrative. How dare we think for ourselves and come to a conclusion that they are trying to blackmail the councillors that we elected, or perhaps bribe some of them. Read the summary of her own scheme, and I'll publish this thing, I'll share it. A politically balanced cabinet, delegated powers, portfolio members for inspections. The name Arooj Shah appears nowhere in it. Hey Kipling, the name Arooj Shah appears nowhere in it. Yet the secret report her office produced, that is different to the one that they published online, says word for word in black and white that the council elects Councillor Shah as the leader of the council. And yet when the chief executive describes the plan in her own defence, the single most contested element of it, the named winner, has been quietly edited out. If recommendation 1 of Heather Moore were as innocent as a fail-safe, it would not survive its own summary. It didn't, did it? Then set Shelley Kipling's email against the monitoring officer's letter and watch how the council's legal doctrine has reversed in 6 days. On the 2nd of July, I shared it with you. The councillors were told that the appointment of a leader is no longer simply a political matter. On the 8th of July, the same councillors are told your priority, your first priority, remains to deliver an administration through political negotiation. One of those sentences is the law, and one of them was the pressure, the blackmail. And the moment the pressure, blackmail, call it what you want, met daylight, the institutions swapped them. Notice also what has vanished from the record now that the record is being written defensively. No talk of individual councillors failing to act reasonably. No 21 days. No whisper of misconduct in public office. just the council, the institution, the organisation acting unlawfully. That's the body, the corporate body, which is actually what the statute actually says and what this article has said all along. Yeah, it's what I've been saying to you all along. It's not the councillors who are acting unlawfully by going into a council chamber and voting according to the mandate in which they were elected on. Take Labour out of control of this council. Buried in the reassurance, if you call it reassurance, sits the most serious sentence the chief executive has yet put in writing. The scheme, she says, simply seeks to formalise what has already put in place as an interim measure. Hold that against the monitoring officer's own letter, which says officers are relying on emergency decision-making powers, and against the report which describes group leaders being briefed on decisions taken under these powers. The monitoring officer is saying we need emergency powers, and the chief executive is saying it simply seeks to formalise what we have already put in place. It's the most two senior council officers, one saying one thing, another saying another thing. So either the chief executive has misdescribed the current governance of Oldham to its own group leaders, dressing officer rule up as cross-party decision-making, or she has confirmed that an unconstituted, unminuted body with no legal basis has been making executive decisions on behalf of this borough for 2 months. I think the problem with people who are not honest is it falls apart, doesn't it? It falls apart. So all the time they are talking about Section 5. It's the threat, isn't it? Section 5, Section 5, Section 5. I've had councillors phone me up talking to me about Section 5, so I've asked them repeatedly, every one of them. So what is it in Section 5 that you think means you've got to get in bed with Labour? Not one of them have stopped to even understand Section 5. If you are finding value in this, there is a subscription to my webpage, redwallandarabble.co.uk. I'm not supported by reform. I'm definitely not supported by reform. Some people choose to support me across all political persuasions. The most recent one was a Conservative councillor who messaged me to say, Raj, I will support you again this year as I supported you last year because you provide a level of analysis and hold these people to account that no one else does. So, redwallandarabble.co.uk. Last month, our Facebook viewing figures, I'll just get it so it's accurate. Last 28 days, our Facebook only viewing figures was 6.4 million. I've been pleading for people to sign up with a paid subscription to Redwall and Arable for the last 2 weeks. I think we've just got past 350. You seem to be getting agitated. I will go through what I go through in my own particular way. If you think you can do better, go and do better. You've said, we know Reform are not propping up Labour. Well, have you seen that document? Have you seen that paper I just shared? And the inconsistencies between the monitoring officer, the borough solicitor, and the chief executive. If you don't think that's important, I can't help you. Section 5. Yep. Threatened, repeatedly threatened with Section 5. Both documents, the monitoring officer's email and, yeah, Section 5. Same weapon. It's a weapon. So let's examine Section 5. Because the whole scheme depends on councillors being too frightened to look it up. A Section 5 report is a document. That is it. It's a document. The monitoring officer writes it, sends a copy to every member. And the council has to meet within 21 days to consider it. That's right. The council has to meet to consider it within 21 days of him writing it. Parliament built it in 1989 as a break, so an officer could stop a council changing into, doing something unlawful. It was around the budgets. It was around charging unlawful budgets or an unlawful decision. That's what a Section 5 report is. It dissolves nothing and removes nobody. Not one power transfers to the monitoring officer, the chief executive or Whitehall. That comes later. I can find nothing in the Act that fines or disqualifies an individual councillor, and no officer has yet pointed to anything that does. A member who receives a Section 5 report, and all 60 of them will have to receive a Section 5 report, and votes exactly as their conscience directs, faces no sanction that anyone has identified. The report to council goes further and claims a Section 5 report would require councillors to address the issue before further business could proceed. That's Bogotov's words. Section 5 bites on a proposal or a decision, something a council is about to do. Oldham's situation appears to be the opposite. It's an omission, a failure to elect, with nothing to suspend. I have looked for the statutory basis for the report's claims and I can't find one. If the assistant director of governance evermore knows a provision that stops the business of a council dead, and remember, Shelley Kipling herself has said the council of the business is being conducted on an interim basis anyway. Well, cite it. Follow it through to the end. This is where it all collapses. Say the report is issued. The council meets, considers it, and still declines to elect Labour's candidate or the Lib Dem candidate or whoever. Vote reform, get reform. So what happens? That is the end of the monitoring officer's powers. He can write another report if he wants. A hung chamber is arithmetic, built by the voters of this borough, election by election, ward by ward, as we go on a journey to remove Labour from power. No officer's letter converts arithmetic into misconduct. The real power to intervene is a failing council. In a failing council sits with the Secretary of State under a different act entirely, and it arrives in the form of commissioners. Hold on to the commissioners. This entire operation exists to keep them out of Oldham. Perfect timing, Sheila. This entire operation exists to keep the commissioners out of Oldham. Now, why would they want to keep the commissioners out of Oldham? Well, let's look at the man behind the first letterhead, Alexander Bogatov. This is the council that sat on a gold command table of Operation Hexagon, whilst I and others were targeted for exposing what was done to the challenged children. Groomed, gang raped, trafficked. Do you know what Bogatov did? I'll show you. This is why Bogatov is scared. Brown Jacobson, heavyweight law firm. In September 2023, this is the 30th of August, yeah? Alexander Bogatov, then interim assistant borough solicitor, personally instructed the law firm Brown Jacobson to send pre-action correspondence to me, a campaigner whose activism has now confirmed that it's helped force the national inquiry. On the 14th of September 2023, he wrote in an email to me, and I've got the email, I can confirm I have instructed Brown Jacobson solicitors. And the letter you have received is a legitimate letter. He copied it into every councillor in Oldham. He put the council spend on the exercise at 4,000. My information, it costs much more. He offered terms. He offered me terms. Correct my behaviour, you fucking twat. Correct my behaviour. My behaviour being campaigning against the gang rape of children. Correct my behaviour, and the proceedings would go away. That means be silent. Here is what he wanted to do. We had a law firm instructed to act on behalf of Oldham Council in relation to the above proposed legal action. We write to put you on notice of the Council's intention to pursue an application for an injunction against you under the Protection from Harassment Act. So they'd gone to the police. The cases had been collapsing against me because they'd fabricated it. So now they were using your money to take an injunction out against me, to stop me campaigning against the cover-up of the gang rape of children. You have persistently displayed a course of conduct over an extended period of time, from at least early 2019, which has and continues to cause alarm or distress to a number of individuals at the council. I know my address is on it, mate. And I'll leave my address on all of it because Pakistani gangsters published my address claiming I was involved in child abuse, as well as being gay and a Christian convert, with a view of trying to get people to come and kill me. And the police knew and protected the Pakistani gangsters. So now I leave my address on it, like, fuck you. I've caused alarm and distress. Of course, if I'd caused alarm and distress, it would be unlawful to individuals. A summary of your behaviour set out. Should it be necessary for an application to be made to court, then detailed evidence will be provided as to your behaviour, including witness evidence from those individuals impacted by your behaviour. Should you wish to avoid an application being made to the court, then the council invites you to comply with the requirements set out below. For over at least the last 4 years, you have engaged in a campaign of repetitive, frequent, oppressive and offensive correspondence. Causing offence, so you being offended by me objecting to the gang rape of children and refusing to shut up to the cover-up of the gang rape of children, is what got us to this national inquiry. You continually publish on your website and social media accounts, including but not limited to Facebook, YouTube, Telegram and Twitter, posts relating to the council, its employees and representatives. Absolutely. You're corrupt and you covered up the gang rape of children. You have posted a significant number of posts, including 242 YouTube videos, a 7-part blog and countless Twitter and Facebook posts. And your point is what? Boggart. What's your point? 6 million views plus this month, mate. Your posts under the label Recusant 9 discuss and are targeted at groups within Oldham, including, as defined on your websites, as Labour Party politicians, council officers and the Asian criminal cartels that really run the town. Your posts regularly name individual employees. Yes, the chief executive. How dare I name, who was it at the time? Harry Caffrell, Caroline Wilkins. How dare I name their names? How dare I name Arooj Shah, the leader of Oldham Council? How dare I lawfully campaign and make threatening? Where have I ever made threatening and accusatory personal and professional allegations about them? Well, then sue me. Sue me, Boggart. Your posts and videos contain consistent unfounded accusations of criminal conduct, included unfounded allegations of malfeasance, misfeasance in public office. consistent and repeated unfounded accusations that individuals working for the council have been guilty of perverting the course of justice, in particular suggesting that such individuals have covered up child abuse. You fucking scumbag. You hired lawyers to try and stop me speaking out against the cover-up of the gang rape of children, and I defied you, and now we have a national inquiry. Backdoor Bogotov. Unfounded statements accusing such individuals of being paedophiles. Hold on. If someone has covered up child sex abuse, I've never called him a paedophile. I want to be very clear right now. If you have covered up, if you're in a position of public authority and you've covered up the gang rape of children, I'm not going to call you a paedophile. I think you're worse than a fucking paedophile. Have I made myself clear, Bogotov? If you're responsible for covering up the gang rape of little girls, I think you are worse than a paedophile, and that effect applies to anyone in public office who's responsible for covering up these horrific crimes. I judge you by a higher standard, and I consider you to be worse than a paedophile. I challenge any police officer to arrest me off the back of that, and any court to try and prosecute me for holding that view. Unfounded accusations that such individuals are engaged with members of criminal organisations. Unfounded allegations of professional misconduct. Well, I'd say your actions, that letter you've sent out to the councillors on the 2nd of July is professional misconduct. Comments which are offensive regarding the appearance, weight, intelligence and capability of individuals. So we would regularly comment at the time on how some members of the council were turning up to council meetings dressed up as scruffy bastards. You know, stains on their shirts, tops that weren't ironed, dressed, they turned up scruffy. And I, from the world I come from, if you hold public office and you go to those meetings, you dress for the occasion. It's called standards. As for the intelligence, I'm sorry. If a councillor can't speak English, for instance, I do not believe that they should hold public office. If they can't read a document and they need it translated, I don't think they should hold public office. These are viewpoints that are now accepted across the board, aren't they? As for reference to the weight, they were encouraging, in fact, they'd spent hundreds of thousands of pounds building a cycle lane from the bottom of a hill to the top of the hill near the civic centre. It's a cycle lane no one uses. My rather, mirth at best comments were to do with some of our councillors should be encouraging everyone else to cycle and get on a bicycle themselves and go up that hill. And no doubt it would do wonders for their weight and health. Racial epithets, in particular against individuals of Pakistani heritage. We now know that the rape gangs were Pakistani. A disproportionate number of them. We now know. Baroness Casey's made reference to it. They've stood up in Parliament and said it. There's a racial correlation. He wanted me to shut up about and stop speaking out. Unfounded allegations that individuals within the council have endorsed your murder. They're not unfounded. The leader of Oldham Council put love hearts in a post. childhood friend who she hangs off the arm of has been convicted twice in a court of law. Why would a heroin dealer have any business with me? I'm not in the heroin trade. You have encouraged other individuals to engage with disruptive and intimidating behaviours against the council to further your campaign of harassment based on unfounded allegations of wrongdoing. Do you know what I'd encouraged other individuals to do? And you saw the culmination of that in May a couple of weeks ago. I'd encouraged them to vote Labour out of power. It might be disruptive to you. You might not like the consequences. But there's no harassment there, because if it was harassment, I'd been arrested and convicted. Oh, you tried that. You got nowhere. Your behaviour now may be escalating. On the 28th of May 2023, you posted on Facebook that you have taken a 2-week break and was feeling refreshed and ready for another 12 months. You set out a plan for a weekly format for the next 12 months, which clearly shows that you have no intention to cease your campaign of harassment, nor cease my campaign of political activism, which continued all the way up to May 2026. And Labour now only have 18 councillors. Seriously, this is what they sent me. And they need to target me to prevent disorder and for the protection of the rights of others. Protection to do what? Go and gang rape little girls? What am I stopping others from doing? This is Bogotov. In order to avoid an application being made to the court, we require that you agree to refrain from all of the following conduct: using profane, foul or abusive language in relation to employees, officers or members. Oh, so I can't tell a council officer to get fucked, or a council elected member. I'm sorry. If you're voting to prevent a national inquiry, I have an opinion on you. Referring to council employees, officers or members with racially motivated phrases, including but not limited to samosa nibbler. They want to outlaw the term samosa nibbler. Bogotov has spent thousands and thousands of pounds of public money and wants me to stop saying samosa nibbler. Which is why if you come to council elections with us on election night, we take a crate of samosas with us. Suggesting or implying without any proper basis that council employees, officers or members are or may be paedophiles. Well, hold on. One was convicted. Rod Blythe was convicted of being a paedophile. You want me to say someone who was convicted of being a paedophile isn't a paedophile? You want me to stop drawing attention to how a senior councillor who had access to children, the council refuses and fails to investigate where he had access to children? Asserting without proper basis that council employees, officers or members are involved in covering up or being involved with child sexual exploitation, including but not limited to the grooming of sexual abuse or rape of children. You can see it now. They wanted me to stop campaigning, agree to stop campaigning for a national inquiry. asserting without any proper basis that the council employs officers or members of any connection or association with an organised group of criminals, including but not limited to criminal gangs, cartel, mobsters, the mafia or other similar organisations. It is a matter of fact that Arooj Shah hangs off the arm of a convicted heroin dealer who was the getaway driver of Dale Cregan. It is a matter of fact that Cameron Gaffar's brother was on Greater Manchester Police's most wanted list. But I'm not allowed to speak about this. Making derogatory statements concerning the appearance or weight of council employees, officers or members. So, I can't point out if someone is obese or could do with getting on a bicycle. Posting on social media the address of or images of any residential property of any council employee, officer or member. Of course, I've never posted the residential address of any employee or council officer. However, the addresses of members of the public or members of like councillors are on the declarations of interest. And at times we've had to look at the declarations of interest to demonstrate how they are involved in decision making affecting businesses that they own or things that they have links to. A conflict of interest. So that would mean I would not be able to look at, would you, what is already published online, which is their own declarations of interest. There you go. Yours faithfully, and they never signed it. Of course they didn't. Brown Jacobson, that was it. Took me ages to find out who it was. And of course, Alexander Bogatov then came forward and said he had personally instructed it. He was the one responsible. Operation Hexagon, the false arrests, Brown Jacobson. And now Bogatov is desperately trying to get with Kipling and others in the council, the officer party we call them, desperately trying to reinstill Arooj Shah as council leader. So let's move on. Vote reform. Get reform, remember? In May, reform stood in this town, in this borough, on a promise so simple. Probably fits on a beer mat, doesn't it? Vote reform, get reform. Not vote reform and get a negotiation. Not vote reform and get a politically balanced arrangement of last resort. People in Oldham, many of them voting for the first time, supported reform with their votes. Some lent them their vote, some believed in them. Many of them were former Labour voters who could no longer stomach what they had learned about their own council. Precisely because reform promised to end all of this. The grooming gang betrayal sits at the centre of reform's national message. The leaders talk about it every broadcast studio interview in the country. In Oldham, in all the towns across England, that message is consistent. And for many of us, it was a reason why we crossed the box and voted reform. Now look at what is on the table. 3 cabinet seats and a deputy leadership. And all reform's councillors have to do in return is walk through the lobby and personally install Arooj Shah as leader of Oldham Council. just weeks before the national inquiry arrives to examine her party's council. The first significant act of reform in power in Oldham, as a block of 16, would be restoring Labour to power in Oldham. Vote reform, get Labour. That is the amendment being drafted to the promise, and the officers are counting on reform's cowardice to vote it through. And before any Reform councillor weighs those 3 seats, as a potentially agreeable first step, they should reread what the woman offering the table said about them in May. In her resignation statement, Arooj Shah ruled out any working arrangement, either through a coalition or supply agreement with Reform, and the Oldham group accused them of divisive and toxic campaigns built on identity and grievance politics. Reform are now being invited into an administration led by someone who told the whole borough she would enter no arrangement with them, and nothing in the paperwork explains what changed except the arithmetic. Reform, they have shown they can refuse. When Brian Hoban, remember, was put up as mayor, Reform's group would not back him, and they held that line under pressure. If treachery was disqualifying for a ceremonial mayoralty, the voters are entitled to ask how the leadership of the entire council on the eve of the inquiry clears a lower bar. You've decided Hoban could not be supported. How can you even entertain Arooj Shah? How can you even entertain Arooj Shah? Or worse, sit on your hands and voting, or not voting, sit on your hands and let the Pakistani sectarians take control. Reform's councillors should understand, the likes of Adam Brooks, Paul Taylor, Bobby Barnes, all of them. My friend Gary Tarbuck, Mark Wilkinson, Sandra Ball, all of you. The vote will not stay in Oldham. The borough is the most watched council in Britain on the issue, or one issue Reform has made its own. The moment Reform hands Shah the leadership, every Labour press office in the country has its line. Reform put Labour in power in Oldham. And every Reform candidate at every election between now and the general will answer for it on the doorstep. The party's national message on the rape gang survivors, the party's national message on the rape gang survives many things. It does not survive its own councillors installing Labour's leader in the town the inquiry is scheduled to come to first. And then I hear some smart Reform councillors have come along. We'll keep our hands clean. We'll abstain. Like fuck, you'll abstain. The people of our town aren't stupid. This is a politically educated town, and you will do well to heed that. And people need to know this before the 15th. It is on the question of abstention. Sit on your hands. Let Arooj Shah be voted down without a single Reform fingerprint on it. How dare you? Let the Pakistani sectarians fight it out and this Rainbow Coalition vote Shah down. How dare you? You were not sent to this fight to sit on your hands against Labour and let someone else vote them down. You were sent to that council chamber to fight Labour. Each and every one of you has a duty to vote against Labour, especially when it's electing Arooj Shah as leader of the council. I will name every one of you that abstains. I don't care who you are. We did not elect cowards. Just shared with you Operation Hexagon. Not one of you will mutter it, will you? Not one of you will stand in the council chamber and say, Operation Hexagon, this council is involved in. Tried to put me in prison. Went after others. I've just shared with you Bogotov's heavyweight lawyers tried to silence me. Tens of thousands in this town know what we have all gone through. We do not send you into the council chamber to hold back against Labour. If you abstain against Arooj Shah, you're worse than cowards. You are complicit in everything that is wrong in this town. To those of you who are claiming this is the clever route, it's not a clever route. On the doorstep, it will be something completely worse. If Shah is blocked, the deadlock does not simply resume. What comes next is a motion to change how the leader is elected. They tried it at the last council meeting, remember, it was quickly defeated like that. But this is what is being conspired. What comes next is a motion to change how the leader is being elected. From a majority of a chamber to a simple plurality. One or the other. Whoever polls the most votes wins. Arooj Shah, how many votes? 18. Lewis Quick, how many votes? 16. Cameron Gaffer, well, he's got a coalition, hasn't he? He's got about 20 something there, so he'll win. So on that vote of changing the voting system, Reform councillors, scared of Bogotov's threats, won't vote against that change. They are considering abstaining. So if Reform abstain on that, then Cameron Gaffar's side wins on that, and then you have the Pakistani sectarians in power of the council. You tell me how that is not surrender. A sectarian takeover. How many of you voted Reform to allow a sectarian takeover? Did you send 16 councillors into that council chamber to abstain so that the Pakistani sectarians can take over the running of your borough? I'm asking you now, did you support 16 Reform councillors to go into the council chamber to sit on their hands on a vote that they know that the immediate consequence would be the Pakistani takeover of this town? No, you didn't. So it leaves us in a position where Reform councillors are facing the truth of their position. And they should hear it plainly. There is no clever route through the 15th. Vote for Shah, and it is a vote for Labour. You're not voting Reform, you're voting Labour. Abstain on the second vote, or on the first vote, and help Gaffer beat Labour. How do you think that would look on the doorstep? When it came to the fight to prevent Arooj Shah from taking power, Reform sat on their hands, and it was left to the Pakistani sectarians and his coalition of Conservatives and Lib Dems to beat Labour. How do you think that looks? You need to understand people in this town are not stupid. It is not Reform's job to fix the councils, the position the council finds itself in. We know we elected 16 of you. We know there's a 3-year plan, and it will take another year, maybe 2 more years, to get the sufficient numbers over the line. There's nothing stopping you from being good ward councillors, of presenting motions, of scrutinising accounts. Nothing stopping you from doing any of that when the commissioners come in. Don't you dare abstain on the vote to change the way in which the election is decided, the leadership is decided. Because you're not abstaining. What you're really doing is allowing the Pakistani sectarians to take control of the town. And don't you dare sit on your hands and abstain against Arooj Shah. You need to hold the deadlock and let the law take its actual course. And I know you're here, and you can all see my relationship is, it's one way with these. I give. Not one of them has stood up in the council chamber and defended me. Not one of them has spoken out against Operation Hexagon. To every one of you Reform councillors here, what is on offer is a seat at the table that exists at Shah's pleasure. What is on offer is a vote that will see Cameron Gaffer take over the town. What is on offer is the destruction of Reform at the ballot box next May. Should you not find the courage to vote against Shah and vote against allowing Gaffer to take control of this town. You're not acting unlawfully doing that, and even if they threaten you, why did we send you there? If you cannot stand up to the first challenge, why did we send you there? Government intervention under what is known as the best value regime. Rotherham had it, Liverpool's had it, Tower Hamlets, they've all had it, Birmingham. So what if the Secretary of State sends in commissioners? Commissioners do not just chair meetings, people. This is what frightens Oldham's officers. This is what frightens the Labour Party. Commissioners do not just chair meetings. They open drawers. They look in cupboards. They question decisions. For a council about to host a national inquiry into the rape of its own children, what is 6 months of outside administrators coming into the town and running it? What is 6 months? We've been at this for 8 years. What is the problem of letting administrators run it for 6 months? I will tell you what will happen if Gaffer takes control. And this is my observations of the situation, my analysis, my prediction. Gaffer has got a health and safety executive investigation against him for the collapse of one of his HMOs. He's a convicted slum landlord. His brother was on Greater Manchester Police's most wanted list. If he takes control, and I was a council officer, I would be looking to do a deal with him. I will help your problem go away. And in return, you make sure this national inquiry into the grooming gangs, into the Pakistani grooming gangs, remember, is managed accordingly. Lewis Quigg knows all of this. Reform know all of this. The voters in Oldham, took Labour's majority away. The inquiry is coming to examine what Labour's council did and the years it held power over this borough's children. And the institution facing the first scrutiny it cannot control has reached for the last lever it owns, its own officers, to put back the political leadership under which the burying was done, just in time to manage the digging. A monitoring officer with a documented record of directing legal threats at this council's critics has written to 60 elected representatives, citing a duty he has yet to locate in statute against a deadline his own colleagues invented, invoking the borough's abused children as leverage. An assistant director of governance has written a report that names the required winner and leaves the law blank. These are not documents confident of their own case. They are documents confident that nobody would check. Well, I've checked them for you. Section 5 is a report. It's not an arrest warrant. No council officer can compel you to vote in one direction. And no letter, whatever the letterhead, turns Arooj Shah's election into your statutory duty. I think what is coming matters more than the people of Oldham. The vote is on the 15th of July. I know already that Reform councillors, I'm being polite to you. I'm being kind to you, actually, in a way I wouldn't be kind to others. I know a number of you are openly promoting the idea of abstaining. Many of you have just started a political career. I'll tell you now. Abstain and let the Pakistani sectarians in and reform. Well, your careers are over, and reform will be chased away from the doorsteps it was once welcomed. When we first raised our banners, we used a phrase that we continue to use and has relevance. Why are you scared of Why are you so scared of Bogatov? Why are you worried about this nonsense about misconduct in public office? None of it stacks up. This is your first test, and you let someone else do the fighting for you, or you'll run away from the fight and allow others to win. What did we say? Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them. You disappointed me. And I always say to all of you, is look in the mirror and see the reflection that looks back at you. Getting in bed with Arooj Shah is not an option. Assisting the Pakistanis to take over the town. How dare you even consider abstaining?
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them. On the 20th of November 2003, James Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon was elected councillor for the Failsworth East Ward of Oldham. Deeply ambitious, he ruthlessly rose to power, and by 2011 he was already leader of the council. In 2015, exploiting a Labour Party loophole, he became MP for Oldham West and Royton. If only the people of the town knew then what they now know. Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.